What's up, Degenerate Nation? Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the off-season college football catch-up. I'm Stuckey, and joining me today is a very special guest, my colleague and friend, Alex Kolodziej. Did I pronounce that right, by the way?
Kolodziej, good enough?
Kolodziej. Is it Polish, right?
It is Polish, yes.
I call him AK. A lot of you out there probably have run into him on Twitter. He's been with us forever, does a lot for action, complete degenerate better, very sharp better in my eyes, and lives, breathes, and sweats college football. On Twitter, you can find him at Rome Ogunze, Ogoonze. By the way, Colin isn't going anywhere. We'll have our normal college football win total previews for every conference as we always do. Those will start in July. Colin is now off losing money on college baseball, I assume, somewhere. So I just want to do a quick catch up. We're trying to expand the BBOC team a little bit this year. We brought in Step on a Duck. If you haven't listened to a couple episodes that came out, I think it's a really good addition. Really sharp college football better guy I really like. Make sure you check out those episodes. He'll be in the mix this year. And wanted to get AK on. That's what I refer to as AK. His initials. By the way, initial. Do you know anyone in college football with the initials AK?
Rutgers quarterback.
Oh
Um,
yeah, Kaliak Manis, the Greek rifle, the Greek
that's
water
what they that's
pistol.
what they call me too, the Greek rifle.
I'm trying to think if I could think of anyone else. Wow, you pulled that quick. I guess it is your initials. Or how about Arden Key,
Arden Key's a
LSU?
good one.
Um, but I do want to just for those not familiar with you, Alex, where are you from? Do you have a team? How long you been betting college football? And then we'll get into just some high level stuff, some quick and you have a couple win totals that you bet we'll talk about, and we'll have some fun on this episode. We'll play some F Mary Kill with some coaches, and I'm gonna bring three coaches. You're gonna bring three quarterbacks for me. But how about a quick background for those not familiar with you?
Yeah, I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. I played football in college for a couple years at the NAIA level. Have a sports background. Grew up in a sports family. Got my bachelor's in kinesiology and sports studies from Eastern Illinois after I got done playing. Um, and really just have kind of had a couple stops where working with content at the Score, FanRag Sports as a startup. But yeah, really love breakdowns. Really love how teams form. Love to project price. Really thankful for all the connections I've made in the college football industry, especially. And I think that's why I've had kind of the longevity that I've had, even through losing seasons. I still get super jacked up to project and rate for college football and get excited for it. So, yeah, this is my third year at Action. And again, man, just doing a little bit of everything. Right now, betting more WNBA and MLB with our projections being so hot. Go check those out on Pro. But yeah, really just greasing the wheels for college football. Duck did an awesome job. He's taken some really good positions on some unders. If in his first episode with Breeze, he was talking about how his approach was more so finding kinks in the schedule and selling off teams. And I think that's going to be my approach when I dive into win totals more. But yeah, man, just super happy to be here to add another layer.
So do you have a team in college football?
So I have family ties to Michigan. I grew up going to Michigan games, and that's kind of actually where my first real love of college football came when I was in grade school, going into high school, and attribute like a big part of that to why I love college football. So I do have a soft spot for Michigan. Was really excited to see them win a championship last year, 2 years ago.
All right. So yeah, and this guy has gear for almost every team in college football. He shows up with
Fanatics loves me. They
their number one customer by a wide margin. All right. Now, by the way, when did you graduate from EIU?
I graduated in 2016. I was 2 years after Jimmy Garoppolo.
So you don't want to go play. When was Babers? No, Babers was a little before then,
Ba-
right?
Babers was a year out, I think, and he was at Bowling Green.
You didn't want to go play. You didn't. Did you try to play for
No,
EIU?
no,
Okay.
I didn't. No, but Jimmy was there on campus. Didn't do a lot of studying from what I heard. So
I mean, they probably had like walk on tryouts, right? At EIU.
so
Um,
yeah, yeah. So after my NAIA days were over, I figured enough playing out of the slot for me. I Somebody else can have my spot. I'll just go study. Don't need to be taking up roster spots. Uh, so yeah, no
all
football
right.
for me down in Chucktown.
Let's uh let's dive right into it. I guess where we have to start is all the talk lately is about the college football playoff and expansion, and then obviously the transfer portal, NIL deals. Obviously college football is changing. They solved my number one concern, which was the fact that last year you had Arizona State and Boise State get buys, which was just outrageous. They fixed that. It's just going to be the top seeds. It and this now you won't have a scenario where Oregon, and I know people are probably tired of me saying this, should have lost in the Big Ten championship. And yes, I'm salty because I had a ticket on Penn State. Maybe that played a part of it, but they should have, and they would have had an easier path. And who knows how it all would have played out. But I think they fixed that. I think it's inevitable. We're going to expand again. I, I don't care. It's probably going to go 11, the 5-11 model. We have rev share now. I think that there still needs to be some regulation in how this all works with NIL I. But look, I'm a better first. I've always been a college football fan. This is just the way that we're headed. Just give me games and I'll bet on them. That's all I really care about. And from a from a the what college football looks like, this is kind of how most people, including myself, predicted where it's headed. In that it's going to be tougher for the smaller schools, and we're going to get more parity at the top. And you're seeing that now. I mean, I could go down the list of college football national title odds, and if I listed, 10 to 12 teams and said they won it all, you wouldn't be completely shocked. Whereas 5, 6 years ago, you might be shocked after like the first 3 to 4 names. So it's just that there's more parity at the top. There's going to be a larger separation between the top and the bottom of college football. Where does that end up? Does that end up being two leagues? I don't know. I don't care. Just give me the games. I do think there needs to be some regulation. We're going to eventually expand to 16 because of money. I think that they fixed the buys, so whatever. You just give me the games. We'll try to find winners. Do you have any thoughts on the overall landscape of college football and/or the playoff?
Mm, the landscape, no. I would just say more so the portal and how often teams change. I just find it hard to project. Like
Oh yeah.
even knowing names, trying to figure out how teams are going to differ from just looking on paper to how they're going to blend into a new system, or if team building is really like a big thing, if these kids actually like each other, if like the locker rooms are strong. Trying to read less more into like which outlets feel optimistic, and really just trying to get a pulse for what's going to work and what's not going to work. Like I go to bed thinking in myself, I'm like, wow, what's Dane Key in a Nebraska uniform going to look like? So, every day, like I said, diving from the outside in and just looking at new rosters every day, I'm like, how is this guy in this roster now? This guy's like on his, fifth team, but he's, a good player. It's just, as a better, it's hard for me to project. So getting into the season and, for me, my strength would be more so to get information and then trying to figure out what to do with it and how to price it and like where to buy and sell. But right now in the off season, it's tough for me, which is why I think I'm okay with taking more time and not diving in so aggressively and just kind of looking for storylines and paths and angles. And I think that's really benefited me mentally in terms of where I am at for the summer and where I plan to be in the next few months.
Yeah, it's tough. There's so much more variance now in college football, especially with the smaller schools. You you look at the turnover, and it's not just players, it's coaches, right? I mean, we've had, I think, almost half of college football has a new head coach over the past 2 years. And I think in this past off season, there was, I don't know, 500 plus coaching changes across college football, like including assistants. But now these teams that are completely rebuilding, the smaller schools, you're pulling from JUCO ranks, you're pulling from like you have a great grasp on how three JUCO kids, they're putting together in a new secondary are going to pan out. I mean, more power to you. Look at Ohio. My biggest whiff last year was Ohio, right? You're going to have times where you can just strike gold, right? Ohio came out of nowhere. I thought they were going to be one of the worst teams in the country. They win the MAC. So there's just so much more variance, so I think I'm going to probably cut back on my win totals, just volume wise. And I have no problem waiting either. A lot of the sharpest bettors that I know, a lot of them got crushed on regular season win totals last year. I think you just raised your hand for those not watching. I think I went 500 and I look back, and it's like I had Indiana over, Troy under. Those were decided like a month in. I had Illinois under, Pitt under. Those were losers like a month in. Like just the hits and misses were so obvious. Whereas in the past, it would come down to like, and obviously getting the best number and those half wins still matter. But in the past, it was like the last 2 weeks, I'd have all these sweats. But just the variance of these teams is so much higher. So I think I'm going to spend more time on, especially in the smaller conferences, maybe more alts, more longer shots, futures, especially when you're tying up your money for that long. And I think the books overall, as far as like the low-hanging fruit, like teams that were lucky and not, as with any market, it's become a bit more efficient. But I don't mind waiting for, some team who everyone falls in love with, and then their win total starts to go up, and then coming back later in the summer and going under, or vice versa. But it's same with college basketball. In the past, college basketball, it's like a lot of these teams, oh, we lost this guy, so I have these three or four guys that are coming back, and then I have to adjust my end of year rating from last year. Just this one guy who's coming in is going to be the stuff. Now everyone's a brand new team, and it just makes it much more difficult to project. And that's not my strength. Player projections and player projection models and player projections of guys coming from the JUCO ranks and all over the country definitely makes it more challenging. But that's where we're at now, and also makes it more fun. And it's not you just don't have the same teams. You could have a team like Ohio out of nowhere, you win back. You have a team like Florida State. Look at Florida State. They went 2-10. Who would have saw that coming? But before we get into this year, let's look back quickly at last year, have some fun. Biggest hits, biggest swings and misses. I'll start. I mentioned that IU over, Troy under, Illinois under. I mean, I had Ohio under. They won the MAC. That's embarrassing for me to consider. I always think that I'm the MAC guru, not so much last year. Bets though, BYU plus 4.5 in the bowl against Colorado comes to mind. How about Alabama -10? One of the worst bets I've ever made against Michigan. I think that closed like 14, and it was dead. One drive into the game. Um, how about you? Biggest swings and misses from last year?
A lot of them. One that sticks out that hurts really hard is San Jose State. I just got a completely wrong read on that, which makes me think heading forward how I want to approach teams and new systems. And because Ken Niumatalolo is coming over, implementing a new system, and he spread it and shredded my you know what. And I got Nick Nashed like right away. And San Jose State became a juggernaut. It sucks because when you fade those teams, you're like, God, I want to love these teams, but I'm rooting against them every week. I was also on Ohio with you as well. I was big on Kyron Drones and VT last year. That was a big swing and miss, which makes me give a big comparison to like Lenora Sellers this year. I'm like forever just kind of mushed in my head, and I have that thought. They play each other week 1, by the way, South Carolina and Virginia Tech. That should be a basketball game. Yeah, a lot of swings and miss. Week 1, I had Houston UNLV over the total. Houston ended up being the best under team in the country. I saw Donovan Smith versus Sluka, and I thought that's going to be a barn burner. The final score was like 27-6 or something. A lot of nothing big in the futures market with big wins. I can't really put a feather in my cap. Didn't play a lot in the Heisman market or futures with conference outrights, but The best win would be Georgia Southern Boise State. I think that over was like 56 and a half. And I think that
That game was wild.
yeah, that was a bad number. But yeah, I mean, last year, not a great year for me on win totals, which again, you can only self-deprecate so much, but it's probably one of those things where I don't want to take up too much of my portfolio on regular season win totals right now. But yeah, I have a couple that I'm excited to share later down the road. Breeze and Duck really have me antsy here.
Yeah, I mean, I say that I'm gonna cut back and I'll end up having uh as many as I usually do. That's the ego. And then you're like, it's only, I mean, I went 500, it's one season, but like there's a lot of smart people that have always done very well in win totals in this new college football world. It's only been one, if you have one bad season, I mean, it's just one bad season. But I do think that it's a much more difficult market and maybe one that I shouldn't be tying up as much money as I usually would in the past. Games that still sit with me. Ready? Let's uncover some bad memories. North Texas versus Tulane. I mean, versus Army, excuse me, and versus Tulane. North Texas was my enemy last year. When they didn't go for two, they went for two originally, and then I lost by the hook. But the Army game, when they kept throwing picks in the end zone, USC versus Notre Dame, that one stung. The pick six they kept dry. Oh my God. That one just, there's certain games that you don't, when you don't cover and you felt like you were fighting for. Marshall opting out of the bowl, I think I would have had about 3 touchdowns worth of CLV in that game. Northern Illinois, Fresno under. Oh, a bowl game, no one would end it. They just wanted to keep playing overtimes, and they were missing like 13-yard field goals to end the game. That game was miserable. You mentioned San Jose State. San Jose State versus Boise. Oh my God. That was miserable. ULM versus ULL. They were catching 10. ULL breaks a run. After they said on the sidelines, go down if you get the first, and the kid didn't. Break a run, scored touchdown, and covered. On the other side, you got to remember the exciting wins. Having Fannin to go alts. I'm not even a prop player, but I had all his alts to break the record. That was so fun.
And it was.
Um, I think he like won them all by halftime. I will miss Harold Fannin. USF versus San Jose State in the Aloha Bowl on Christmas Eve. That was an electric game. Um, Western Kentucky, Jacksonville State over. That's a random one, but Jacksonville State, Rich Rod, it was like fourth and I needed them to kick a field goal. It was like fourth and 10. They brought in the backup quarterback and went for it. I guess because he was a senior, they weren't going to snap, and he ran it in. Who was that? It was Smothers. Smothers. Um, I think that's his name. He ran it in. Iowa State coming back against Iowa. That was fun too. Um, but anything you want to mention for games that still haunt you or
Oh
most exciting
man.
wins?
Um, God, I can go on forever with games that haunt me. I feel like those just stick. Week one, Nebraska, UTEP had over 47 and a half, I think. And that was like the
Oh, no
first,
one scored for like ever in that at the end, right?
yeah, nobody scored for like 18 minutes of gameplay. And those are just the worst because you're
Oh
you're
my
just
God.
expecting to win. But I
And
think,
then
I
you're
mean,
like, wait, do I gotta pay attention to this, but I still should be good. And then you're like, oh no.
yeah,
And then it turns to dread.
Nebraska was up by like 40. And there were a couple, goal to go possessions, and they ended up going for. And you just know when you're on the 1 yard line, first and goal, and you get 4 shots, you're not going to get it at that point. And that honestly, hate to say it, don't want to be that guy, but it set the tone for like some pretty bad ones. But yeah, man, looking forward to that.
Nothing better. I can't wait. North Texas Army in September rematch. I'm gonna find a way to lose money on that game. Um, top 20. All right, we have a list of potential topics here. Let's go through them. Top 25 teams. If you can, how about a top 15 or a top 20 team that has no shot? I'll throw the first stone here at you, Michigan, man. I'm going to say Michigan. So teams that are they going to be a top 10 team? I don't know what the rankings are going to be. Um, but they might be like 10, top 10, top 15. Um, I don't think they have the offense. I think their defense will be nasty. Their running backs will be good. I still don't think they have the wide receivers. Their offensive line, there's major question marks. And then, I mean, is Underwood going to be the guy? Maybe, but he's still a kid. And then when you have all those other question marks on offense, I'm also not a believer in their coordinator. So I just think that they're off. They don't have the offensive upside this year. So Michigan's a team I just think has zero shot. You agree or disagree with that?
No, I agree. I was going to say the same thing. I don't think the wide receiver room's strong enough. And really, that comes from a conference where I think there are a lot of strong wide receiver rooms, and teams that might not even contend, I think, have stronger wide receiver rooms. I don't think this is Sharon Moore's best team either. A lot of room to grow, but I don't think this is it either. I don't have a team, maybe not top 10 or 12, but because it's not a top 10 or 12, I'll give you two. And I think that two teams that I'm like really wary of are South Carolina and Texas Tech, because they both fit that mold
Texas
of
Tech is the off-season hype darling right now.
it's you see it almost every year, right? Like you get hot at the end of the year, big bowl game win over an SEC team, and then like you're kind of in the conference mix. And the thing with Texas Tech though is, and I think this is honestly important for people who try to find information on the internet. Like there's a lot of optimism around Texas Tech. Like, and I think sometimes you have to be wary as a better of like sometimes too much optimism isn't good if everybody's saying very, very good things about you. And I
Well,
think,
and it gets priced into the market a lot. Everyone's betting
well,
them, and now they're some places they're like the co-favorite to win the Big 12. And it's not like there's a lot of separation between a lot of the teams in the Big 12. I mean, the Big 12 is wide, wide open again. Can it be even more wide open than last year? I don't know. I mean, last year going into the final weekend, there was 9 teams that had a chance to go to the Big 12 championship, and none of them controlled their own destiny, which is insane. I don't know if it can get more wide open, but I think like you're gonna have teams, a bunch of teams that are power rated like 20th to 30th, and then I think some of the teams that were at the bottom last year should be a little better. Like power rated 80th, maybe like 60th. So like there's not a lot of separation, especially at the top.
Big 12 is going to be amazing.
But what's that?
The Big 12 is going to be amazing.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. I expect chaos and like tiebreakers and to come down to the final weekend again. As of right now, I'm a Baylor guy as of right now in the Big 12, and I've just scratched the surface of college football. I mean, I was just in Spain for 2 weeks, and now it's locked in time. I'll be every minute doing NFL and college football for the next 2 months before we start unleashing all of the off-season previews. So I have to do deep dives on every team. But as of right now, Baylor is my early darling in the Big 12. I agree that Texas Tech is getting too much love. And then South Carolina, yeah, it's interesting. I think that they're getting too much love as well. I mean, I get it last year. You look at what they did, and you could argue this either way, depending on which case you want to make, because they should have beat LSU. I was on that game pissed me off, by the way. That should be a game
That
that
was
haunts
that
me.
early season low, like
That was
in
they played it was like uh it was like
so I remember I bet I had under in that game, and I think it stood no chance.
no, yeah, it was I think it was either mid to late September. I think it was like week 3. I think you're right. Week 3, maybe week 2. I don't know. It was early season, and there was a bullshit horse collar that there was so many bad calls on South Carolina. Yeah, I was on South Carolina, but just a lot of people would agree. There was a horse car that brought back a pick six. Whatever. They should have, and they could have easily beat Alabama. Um, but I mean, that wasn't the best Alabama team last year. But then they also at the end of the year, Missouri, they won in the final seconds. They won in the final seconds against Clemson. I get it. Sellers improved as the year went on. But I think I'm a seller of South Carolina as well. I think that they're getting a little bit too much hype. I think their defense definitely takes a step back with some of the pieces that they lost uh, at all three levels. And you know, Sellers is he's fun to watch. He still has footwork issues. Maybe he works on that, and maybe he takes that next step. But I'm still not fully bought in on him being this guy who's going to lead South Carolina to the college football playoff and or even deeper. With that said, if you are looking for a Heisman long shot, I mean, when I look at the Heisman market, I don't really bet the Heisman market. I'm a Heisman voter, one of the million. but you got to look quarterback, in my opinion. And obviously your favorites are going to be Arch and company at the top, but maybe who I would consider maybe looking at is a Sellers because I do think South Carolina's defense takes a step back. If you believe that he takes the next step, he's going to have the rushing numbers. And then, if he takes the next step as a passer, and I think South Carolina's offense has to be better this year because their defense is going to be worse. He's an intriguing name, Lagway. Maybe I think like guys that are in like the 20-1 range. Heisman betting not my strong suit though. Do you have any thoughts on the Heisman?
You know what? The more I look at it, I like Sam Levitt. Passed for 2,800 yards. You're going to lose Cam Scadaboo's production from the running game, but I think the big thing with Sam is he's going to add on top of the 450, 500 rushing yards that he had last year. I love ASU's receiving corps of Tyson, Malik McLean. They got a couple transfers. I think they just need one or two to hit to have a really, really well-rounded corps. And then I think just Kenny Dillingham. I mean, you think about his ties. This is going to be his most explosive offense. I mean, was able to go freaking, zoop with Memphis, and this kind of reminds me of like that explosive, finally the unit that he wants. And like last year, I wasn't really a big believer in Sam Levitt, but I think he played more confidently than I thought. He played mature. He played a point guard style offense where when he had the ball in his hands, I don't think he made a lot of mistakes. And I think if he's going to lose the narrative of the surprise factor, nobody's going to, think of ASU as a sleeper anymore. So he's going to lose that. I think the playing on the West Coast is kind of a little bit drawn out of a narrative on why you might fade him. He's playing the Big 12 now. He's going to get a little bit more exposure.
Yeah.
But I think from an overall usage rate, like if you're looking at a guy like Mateer or Austin Simmons, like I think I'd rather have Sam Levitt. I think he has the tools to put up close to 4,000 yards and then add rushing ability on it. I don't know if I trust their running game. And with the Big 12 being so pass heavy, I think they're going to be playing in shootouts almost every week. It's the Big 12. I wouldn't be surprised if the Heisman winner came out of the Big 12 as a Big 12 quarterback. It's just all of a matter of trying to decide which one.
Don't sleep on Udo. That's my guy. A rare Army transfer, heading to Arizona State. Um, well, that is a good transition into. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna do my. Well, Kenny Dillingham. You mentioned Kenny Dillingham. You met him.
I did. I met Kenny Dillingham. The year was 2017, April. And I was just trying to make some money like in the off season of football. And so I didn't know it at the time, but I was working for like this Ponzi scheme protein shop. And the overlord of the protein shop, he was like, yeah, man, you'll see some names pop in here. And he's like naming off of these athletes or whatever. Cause I told him like I have a sports background and stuff. And he's like, yeah, you'll see some guys. And he's like, the Memphis offensive coordinator pops in. I'm like, Kenny Dillingham? And he's like, oh yeah, he lived because he's an AZ guy. He lived up in like
Yeah.
Paradise Valley. And so, sure as shoot, like 3 weeks later, in comes Kenny. I'm slinging protein shakes. In comes Kenny, right? And like, and Matt Mitchell had said the same thing. He's like Kenny's just got that aura where he's just straight business. That's how he was in the protein shop, like slinging his protein shop. Was in and out in like 5 minutes, just getting his, just fueling up. He didn't really acknowledge me, but oh yeah, and I got out of the protein shop in like a couple weeks after they were trying to like pay me in protein. But yeah, crazy guy. I mean, you could like see it though, the way he carried himself, just like a great dude, all about business. And so him being a local guy, he's like really, really easy to root for.
He seems like a guy that anyone would love to play for.
I, so I mean, and I know this happened like a couple months ago, but him gifting like bonuses to his staff, like that's just like that's some good people stuff right there.
Yep.
You just see that often. So yeah, good dude, really easy to root for. And again, he has ties. I mean, putting Memphis on the map, doing stuff with Memphis, with Silverfield, and then at Oregon, I think like this is going to be his best unit. I think he's still got that chip on his shoulder. I think ASU's offense could go crazy this year. Tyson for Biletnikoff, if you could find it.
Underdog is one of the best places to make picks during playoff basketball. And while they score buckets, you could score cash. Underdog is one of the leading sports apps, and you can play right now in your state. Their app has over 100,000 five-star reviews, and millions of players. To play, all you have to do is download the app and choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats. You can choose from things like points, assists, and so much more. Once your picks feel good, you can play with as little as $1. If you get everything right, you could win up to 1,000 times your money. I just got back from Spain. Little break in betting for me in May. It's my month off. Sometimes I would wake up, just my body clock, I would wake up at 2 in the morning and I'm like, oh, the NBA finals start in a half hour. Of course, I can never sleep. I would log on to Underdog and just put in a fun pick three, pick four, and it just enabled me to have a fun sweat during the NBA finals all throughout my vacation. So if you don't really like a bet, a side, a total on a game, just download Underdog and you can have some fun and try to win some cash. I know that it helped me while I was on vacation. So download the Underdog app and sign up with promo code BBOC to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. That's promo code BBOC, and that's a bonus of up to $1,000. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Let's do, well, first year coaches. There's 30, I think, new coaches in college football. Any one that you like or dislike? I mean, going through, by the way, college football, which is like, it's like the best TV show in the world. And now it gets even better. You have Dion at Colorado. Now you have Belichick in that circus at UNC. Frost is back at UCF. Rich Rod is back in Morgantown. You got Arch Madness down in Austin. That so many quarterback chances. I mean, like it's the best TV show. But there's 30 new coaches. Like none really excite me that much. The ones that I don't like Dan Mullen, is he really built for this today's college football? Like this was kind of his weakness, and I don't know.
So
Don't
you say
like
stuff.
that.
You say Dan Mullen too. He was one of the first because, like I said, like looking at first year coaches was kind of one of the first avenues to just like pricing teams and gauging teams, or whatever. And when I saw Dan Mullen at UNLV, I'm like, okay, I got to find a reason to want to sell off. And then I looked at the roster. I'm like, damn, this offense is like really good. They have some. I think it's what JoJo Earl. They had Orgy, I think, is the quarterback, and like, God, I mean, look, I watched Alex Orgy on a weekly basis. Like, I don't know what he looks like coming from the Big Ten and now playing. But again, just like an interesting team to me is Dan, like, Dan Mullen.
Calandria, baby. He's there too. I don't know who's going to win the
Right,
job.
from Virginia. Yeah, that's right.
I think it's either between Orgy or Calandria. Um, Calandria is a roller coaster. Regardless, he'd be fun to watch there.
Well, he's super pro.
Um, there's so many I don't like, and I could go on and on, but like I don't see Charles Kelly at Jacksonville State working out. Um, we'll get to Phil Longo. We'll get to Sam Houston State later. Teaser. Um, Loggins at App State. And there's
You
so
know,
many I don't like. There's none that like really wowed me where I'm like, this is the Rice hire could be interesting. I mean, Bloomgren, that was just it had run its course. FAU, you got Kitley bringing the air raid down to FAU, which will be interesting to watch. But there's not a lot of hires that I like. In fact, most of them I don't like. And we'll have plenty of time to talk about the Belichick situation on later episodes. But any other coaches that you want to mention?
yeah, I mean, like love Casey Keeler. I really couldn't get there with Temple this year, but again, a guy that's really easy to say that he's going to win wherever he goes. Then I think the same with Tim Albin too at Charlotte. And just for context too, like a couple of years ago, 2022. Actually, let me start that over because I was just fumbling over that. Another guy that I like is Tim Albin at Charlotte for the same reason that I liked Biff Poggi a couple years ago, which in hindsight, Biff isn't a head coach. Like he's a great number 3 if you have him in your university, but not a head coach. But Charlotte is one of those teams that I think at 2.5, even if you're paying, I think minus 160 or 170 they're at right now, I think you'd be okay playing that over.
Yeah, that Albin's one of the few I do like, especially what he did with Ohio last year. I mean, um, you have to tip your hat to what he did last year. So yeah, I don't mind that either, and I don't mind that over an early look.
And then another one stuck, and this is just obviously personal, but Mike Yurimovich at Ball State is an interesting one, only because I know Mike back from his St. Francis days. He was actually the first head coach to offer me a college scholarship out of high school. He's
He was from he came from Butler, right?
He
He was
did,
just
yeah.
at Butler.
He was an NIU guy, had some success at Butler, was at Temple for a little bit. But yeah, I mean, he's been in my house. He coached St. Francis, which close to my house really wasn't anything. And then they had some dudes. So, I was talking with Mike Huseman over at Mike Farrell Sports, who does a lot of coaching stuff. I asked him about Mike Yurimovich. I'm just interested because he recruited Florida really well from Joliet, Illinois. So if he can get a leg up on recruiting, I think he's an interesting one and probably one that I'll be rooting for and just having a tap because I mean, guy's got a knack for recruiting. Obviously, he wanted me to be his H-back. So we'll see. That's just another one. You being the Matt guy, I think I may have some takes and some positions I want to take on Ball State here in the next year or two. May have to.
Well, if you're catching on to a theme here, AK loves Arizona State because he sold Kenny Dillingham protein shakes, and he loves Ball State because Yurimovich was in his house at once. So, no bias at all from AK. All right, let me give you a F, marry, kill of coaches. 3 coaches, much maligned. They've never won a national championship. Let's go. Brian Kelly. Although I think Brian Kelly won one with like Grand Valley State, but never won uh, a, a FBS as a coach. So let's go Brian Kelly, James Franklin, and Mario Cristobal, who did one. I think he won one as a player.
I was hoping.
So
I was hoping you weren't going to throw out. I was hoping.
Cristobal, Kelly, James Franklin, F. Mary Kill.
Mario Cristobal standing nowhere near my campus.
So he's out.
Mario Cristobal has a restraining order for my campus.
See, I thought you were going to kill Brian Kelly because he killed a kid, so that was revenge. But I'm sorry, won't go there. Okay, all right. So you're killing off Cristobal.
Sorry that I'm not taking your revenge factor here. Okay, hear me out. Give me James Franklin over the course of a year, aka I will. Let's see. He would be the equivalent of marrying. No, he'd be the equivalent of having of.
No, you're marrying him. You're gonna be you're with him in the long run, and then for one game, like a one night stand.
Yeah. No. So for
Kelly,
one game, give me Brian Kelly. But I think I got to get James Franklin only because, and this was my thought process. James Franklin runs up the score on everybody. Bound to have good boosters. He's going to be good for you against the spread, especially if you're betting on him. If you're
good for the household income.
Good for the household income. Good for the alma maters. If you're going to be betting Penn State, you want a head coach that's going to be trying to disappoint your opponents and try to win every game by 40. It's not an easy 3 to have. Okay, one of them tried to have a fake accent. I thought you were for sure going to throw Kirk Ferentz in there because I think I would have wrote Kirk out for the entire year if I had the chance to. But James Franklin's kind of an a-hole if you rub him the wrong way, and I like that about him. I think if you're betting on him,
you'd be married to James Franklin. Well, I guess any of them being married, who would be like the most pleasant? I don't know. Maybe Mario in that case, but you can't go Mario. That's it's a tough question. But you have one for me with quarterbacks, this year's quarterbacks.
Okay, so yeah, let's say in this scenario you have to bench one. You don't have to kill the guy. You have to
Okay.
bench one. You have to start. You get one for one game, right? Your biggest game, and then you get one for the entire season. Sam Levitt, Sawyer Robertson, or and Devin Dampier.
Hmm. All right. Well, I'm not taking I'm not marrying Dampier. I still have questions about his passing ability and how he's going to perform stepping up in class this year. Guy's electric to watch, but we'll see how it translates. I guess he threw for like close to 300 against Auburn, but still makes some wayward passes. I'm very curious to see how that works out, but I'm definitely not marrying him. I would consider him for like a one game scenario with his rushing ability too. Like he had a couple games last year where he ran for like 200 towards the end of
I
the year.
Stuck. I think so too. Like, look, I don't mean to bust it in your parade, but like, if you need like 500 and like maybe another 100 on the ground, like who's gonna do that? I think Dampier has a chance to do that. You could put him in a dome, man. That changes everything too.
Yeah. And then I'm sorry, I know he's your guy, but I'm marrying Sawyer. He's my guy. I think he's very underrated. I'm super high on Baylor, as I said before. The one thing that makes me so angry is that Baylor is playing Auburn week one. I'm also super high on Auburn, being super high on Hugh Freeze. I'm sure it's going to work out well. Um, I, I I think Jackson Arnold is a good scheme fit. Last year, he just like there was nothing he could do. Like he had no offensive line. His offensive line was hurt the entire year. All of his receivers were hurt the entire year. I think Freeze is going to get the best out of him. But most importantly, that offensive line, I think, can finally take the next step. Bringing in Chaplin is huge. He can move Wade to guard. Connor Lew's a good center. You got Wright, too tall at tackle. Like you got experience now. There's some depth on the offensive line. Great weapons on the outside. I know they've replaced Hunter and Fairweather, but I kind of like Auburn. And by the way, to paint a picture, just and we'll go through all of this in detail when we preview every single team. But Auburn has about 65% returning production. Last year, they had 65% returning production. Last year, that was 41st in college football. This year, same percentage. It's 21st. That's the end of COVID. And that's what that does. So they're close to top 20 returning production, but I think they can take the next step. Um, I still have some questions about the defense I got to get into. Special teams also should be better if McPherson is healthy. Um, but I am pretty high on Auburn. And another team I'll throw out there, we won't go too deep in all these, but LSU, we mentioned Brian Kelly. LSU is a team I might be looking to buy upside on. So the if you look at the top 10, you take the top 10, 15 teams this year specifically, you go through them, which you it's quarterback question, quarterback question, quarterback question, quarterback question, right? Like even Arch Manning, like we haven't seen him start all year. All these teams, it's like you know the teams where you probably feel best like Drew Aller. Like I have Penn State as the second best team power rated as of right now, and Texas won. But like you go down the list, Georgia, Alabama, you keep going. Like all these teams, Ohio State, it's the quarterback position. Who do I feel really good about in that aspect? It's LSU with Nussmeier. I think he really improved some of his decision making at the end of last year. I like their weapons. I think their defense can take the next step. I think like some of the additions in the secondary the thing that everyone's going to bring up is the offensive line because they lost four guys to the NFL, but they could not run block last year at all. I mean, there was I think it was just an inability of that group. They were elite in pass protection. It was an inability of that group to pick up the zone block running scheme that they were switching to. So I think like getting new guys in there, there's still definitely some questions. And they need, I think, Braylon Moore, the kid from Vatech. I think they really do need him to hit. And then they need their left tackle to hit as well. And then I think the pieces can fall into place. But I think that they can be better run blocking, kind of starting from scratch as a unit, and that'll give them a more balanced offense. So I don't know. I'm pretty high on LSU now. I don't know if I want to buy. Brian Kelly never wins week one ever, and they go to Clemson, and I think Clemson is overhyped. I was buying Clemson last year going into the year, and I got so lucky, saved my futures. I mean, think about like this is how lucky like a season long portfolio is. What saved my futures were I had Iowa State to win the Big 12. They were with one of nine teams, and they somehow get in, and then I was able to hedge and profit on that. And then I had Clemson to win the ACC and Clemson to make the college football playoff. Was dead, dead. And then Miami loses to Syracuse, and they get in, and then everyone is just remembering that game against Texas. But what about the rest of the year? I think I get some of the love for Clemson and a lot of their experience and what Klubnik showed in that Texas game, but there were some other questionable moments for Klubnik. I think the love for Clemson's gone too far. My argument going into the season was like there's not that much of a difference between Clemson and Miami. I think you can make the same case for Miami this year. Like Clemson's now what plus 120 to win the ACC, and Miami's now plus 450. It's like a little role reversal. I I think that Clemson has more flaws than people. Everyone is just penciling them in to win the ACC and make the college football playoff, which they very may well could. But I think that they're a little too overbought right now in the market. It will be a great test for LSU, though. If LSU wins that game on the road in week one, you what that probably means because the Clemson defensive front, is nasty. And I do like the addition of Allen, a defensive coordinator. Um, it's always tough to run on a time on defense. It's going to be tough to run on. If they're able to run the ball and have a more balanced offense in week one on the road against that Clemson defensive front, I think sky's the limit for LSU, and then they're going to win. I think they're going to win 10 plus games. But that's the tricky game. What are they plus? I would love to get a three in that game. Are they plus 2.5? Do you have the odds up for the week one?
Clemson, 2.5, 3.
Is there a three out
Depending,
there?
hashtag depending on the shop. Yeah, there are threes.
Okay. I might be on that. Now, the offense line definitely has questions, but I think it might end up coming together and they might end up being more balanced if they can actually run the ball. And I'm a Baker believer, so I'm high on LSU. The SEC is, oof, it's a bear as always. My Kentucky Wildcats, Zach Calzada, by the way. I can't believe he's
How
still
about it?
around. Pre-COVID player, seventh year at quarterback. Kentucky definitely has. I don't know.
I think
I
I
might
am.
buy them at 4.5, but
I think I am. I think
their schedule's brutal. And but like this is last year was like the one year since over the past 10 that they didn't get to a bowl if you throw out the 2020 COVID year. Um, I feel like you're buying low at a good time on Stoops and company, but the schedule's brutal. They definitely have questions all over. Uh, Is their offensive line? It can't get much worse than last year, but you're relying on your tackles are a kid from New Mexico State, a kid from Bowling Green. How do they translate? All right, whatever. I'm not. We're not going to go through every team. I could sit here and talk for hours. A little teaser of where we're going, but yeah, LSU and Auburn. I'm higher than the market on as of right now. Could change. I'm going to spend the next couple months deep diving news. There's injuries, but Auburn, I want to dive a little more into defense. LSU, I just want to see how that offensive line comes together. But how many teams have a quarterback that you feel really confident in, like Nussmeier at the top? Um, and I just can't figure out if I want to buy them before or after the Clemson game. So, um, any what else do we have here before we get out of here? Did we touch on?
Want to dish out some win totals?
Yeah, win totals. What do you got?
Yeah. So the first one I locked in this year was Cal under 5.5 at plus 110. I just looking at this logjam in the conference. I just think there's some good fades. Like these teams that are priced in between like 5.5 to 7 wins. Like not everybody you're not going to have 10 teams in the ACC win 8 games this year. I just don't like the roster. I don't think it's explosive enough. I think Cal used a lot of its good juju last year. They only ended up like 1 point less than the market expected over a per game basis last year. But They were good in takeaways last year. The transfers that they brought in to replace a couple of their pass catchers, I wasn't too thrilled with. And like when I look at some of these teams in the middle, like Pitt, BC, like I'm not a big Narduzzi guy. I'm not a big BOB guy. I'm not going to go to bat for those guys. And the Manny Diaz, but I still don't think those teams are trending in a way that all of a sudden opens up a path for Cal. They don't have a difficult schedule when you stack up the teams in the ACC. Like they don't play Miami, they don't play Clemson, but I still think with Virginia Tech and Louisville, you could probably pencil them in for 3 wins, but I was more than happy to take under 5.5 at a plus money price.
I don't mind that at all. I don't like some of the things I'm hearing about Cal early. And what Ron Rivera is running things there now.
I
Is the GM that a lot of these teams are going to they're going to the NFL ranks because like you got to manage a team like the NFL now, right? You got money and you got to how you're allocating resources to which positions and but Ron Rivera and Brian Harsin, who I'm not a fan of. Uh
so that was number one, and then number
I'll
two,
sell both easily. Good.
yeah, number two, Sam Houston State under 4.5. I just think the drop off from Keeler to Longo is too big. Um, Year one, tough. Then they had that big swing year last year where they win 9 games. I just think that you lose kind of that incentive factor. Hashtag guy I respect says that they may have the worst defense in FBS. I think CW
They
rated them.
lost
I mean,
everybody on
I mean,
defense.
and here and
Their
this is
secondary
like,
is just going to be JUCO guys. Like that's their entire secondary, I think.
so, and that's kind of it, right? Like it's kind of the gist of this is like in the grand scheme of things, you could say, yeah, they brought in these portal guys, but like I don't think any of them are good. That with Longo, you're going to get a lot of offense, but I don't think they're going to be able to stop anybody. And like I said, you kind of lose that incentive factor. They won 9 games last year, number 12 nationally in turnover margin. I think they covered by almost a field goal per game over market expectations. So I think, and look, you may not want to bet the under here, but I certainly wouldn't be buying. And again, at under 4.5 at plus 120, I thought was a really, really good price. So Cal under 5.5 and Sam Houston State under 4.5 are the first two positions I took.
Longo was I love the Sam Houston State. Sorry to our producer, and uh, we've loved Sam Houston State and love Keeler. Longo was only a head coach. I'm not a Longo guy. He was a head coach once before. Do you know where he was a head coach?
Um, it starts with an A. He's like
No.
C. No, I told you. That's why I know everything about him. But I know he's like 7-14 as a head coach. Tell me where he was
Yep.
at.
LaSalle.
Yeah,
Um,
there's 2 A's in there. That's exactly what I was talking about.
they um, they discontinued their program in 2007 after they went 0 and 10. Um, yeah, he went 7 and 14 overall. That's the only time he's been a head coach. But their defense should take a massive step back. Unless like every single one of these Jags hits, like yeah, there's a chance it could. But then you're making this huge change on offense schematically, and I don't see Hunter Watson as the guy that can run an air raid type offense. Um, but like making that big change with Houston State and the personnel they have, I don't see that working. I mean, maybe the kid Longo brought a kid with him from Wisconsin. I forget his name, Mateer or whatever. Maybe he ends up being the quarterback. I haven't really dug deep, as I said, but I know they lost everything on defense. Big schematic change on offense, and there's some regression signs there. So yeah, I think it's going to be a rough year for eat 'em up cats, unfortunately. Anything else? We'll have another episode in a couple weeks, and then like I said, I'll put out the whole schedule. I'll tweet it out. We'll have our win total for every conference. We'll cover every single team, go into them all in depth. We'll have a couple fun episodes before then, touch on some of these teams. Um, by the way, the College World Series, Omaha, 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 that episode will be out next on this channel. So look out for that from Calabrese and Colin Wilson. Make sure you check out the other episodes with Mike, and Duck, who is a great addition. Thanks to AK for joining me. By the way, leave us reviews. We're just starting up the pod again. They really help us,
Thank you.
especially this time of the year. 5-star reviews. Let me know, or let Alex know if you have good feedback. If you have bad feedback, you can let me know. Don't be rude. But love AK. And yeah, leave us some reviews. We're back, baby. Thanks for tuning in. And by the way, Chris Raybon and I on the Action Network podcast, Monday, we'll be doing AFC and NFC win totals. So for all my NFL peeps, make sure you check that out as well. But thanks for tuning in. Thanks to AK. Thanks to our producer on the back end. Most importantly, thanks to all of you. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Season's back, baby. Catch y'all later. Cheers.